Hey there, welcome back to the Status FX gaming channel, and I'm Status FX. Today we're going to be talking about freezing pulse totems again. And yeah, I wanted to make one last video about freezing pulse totems before I move on to something else, and the reason is because I just envisioned that last video going a lot more smoothly, and I had no idea that it would see that kind of attention. And then when I watched the video myself, there were some things that I thought I had edited out and I didn't. Like, for instance, there's a tier 11 map with no mods on it. That wasn't supposed to really be in the video at all, and instead it was just going to be the Baron kill, and then I was going to move on. And I actually didn't know that you can put mods onto those maps that Zana shows you that have an influence, or like that have a citadel. And apparently that was changed in this patch. So yeah, there's quite a bit to talk about, and I wanted to just kind of patch up some of the stuff that I did in that last video. So what you can see behind me now is all tier 14 and higher maps. So some of them are going to be 15 and 16 even. I don't have a boss kill in there. I apologize for that. So maybe I can do some kind of a shorter, showcase video where we actually go ahead and take on Cyrus. I know we'll get him. Yeah, anyway, I did want to just go ahead and say thank you so much to everybody who actually watched that video, even if it was just for like 2 minutes or whatever. Especially people who provided feedback. That was very, very useful for me, and I learned so much from making that video. I am a newer content creator here on YouTube, and I want to stick around to make even more stuff, but I am learning, and I picked up so much from that last video. I know I'm going to pick up a lot of stuff from this video. And if you are liking the videos, consider subscribing. It means so much to me right now with kind of being a small channel. And yeah, let's get right in. We're going to do this a little more structured today. So in the first segment here, we're going to go ahead and just talk about the different items, uniques, and things that flesh out the freezing pulse totems build. And the first item that we're going to be talking about today is, once again, March of the Legion boots. And I wanted to talk about this one again because I have once again changed the way I'm using this. So in the last video, we were getting 5 auras that were all unreserved. One of the main auras that I was using for that was Malevolence. And yes, someone else pointed out to me that I'm not benefiting that much from Malevolence. All I'm getting is the skill effect duration. And the last time I did a totem build was actually Frostbolt totems. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering correctly, Frostbolt totems actually can scale up cold damage over time in some way. And that's just not the case with freezing pulse totems. So, yeah, I have taken Malevolence out of the build, and instead we're scaling up just a small bit of skill effect duration, and we're not using Supreme Ego anymore. We have 4 auras instead of 5, because I wanted to make it the 4 best auras I could find. And the auras we decided to go ahead and use in March of the Legion now are Vitality, Clarity, Hatred, and Zealotry. And I think this is really good. It helps us get more focused on what we want to do with the build instead of trying to spread out a little bit too thin. And so I actually think we are scaling our damage much better this way, especially since now we are investing more into crit, which is crit chance and crit multi. There's some really good totem nodes and notables on the tree for totem crit chance and multiplier. Some of the items that you need for the build are absolutely necessary, and that's why I don't think that this is really solo self-found viable. And we're going to go ahead and talk about that. So 2 of them are going to be jewels, and it's going to be first snow. You need 2 of these because the max that you can equip on your character is 2, and each one that you have puts 2 more projectiles onto your freezing pulse and increases the damage. So these are absolutely necessary. They're pretty easy to get, and you actually do get one of them from just doing the campaign as a reward. The other one you can either just find, or you'll find it probably later in your playthrough, or you can just buy some on the Trade League. They're really, really inexpensive, and they're not too hard to come by if you want to try to farm them as well. So the other items that we're going to need are the Kikuzara rings, and we're going to need 2 of these early on. We don't have them in the final build, but they are extremely important, because you can use a Soul Mantle really early, like around, I think, like level 49 or so, and you can equip the Kikuzara rings pretty much right when you put that Soul Mantle on. Soul Mantle gives you curses each time that you use it, Soul Mantle gives you a curse each time one of your totems dies. So we don't want to be taking all of those curse effects. And those Kikuzara rings, they reduce, the Kikuzara rings along with a passive on the tree. Do not forget about that passive. It's extremely important. Make it so that our skill effect on us is reduced by 100%. So we're not getting any of the curse effects from the Soul Mantle, which is very, very important. Now, at some point, you're going to want to get your ring slots back. And you can do that, kind of, by putting on a Viridi's Veil helmet. And Viridi's Veil is a really nice option here because it's pretty cheap, and you can equip it pretty early. I don't remember, probably when you're getting into your your last labyrinth during the campaign. I'm not talking about the Uber lab, which is in maps, but yeah, the last lab in the campaign, which is the Merciless. Probably as you're going into that, you can find a Viridi's Veil on the Trade League, and then you can take off the 2 Kikuzara rings. But the drawback here is that with Viridi's Veil, we're going to have to put in a magic ring in order to get the curses effect removed. So yeah, you kind of get your ring slots back, but you do have that one of them being a magic ring. Now, what I've decided to do now is, instead of using Viridi's Veil, I've decided to put on Etsuri's Reflection, and I'm going more crit now. And part of the reason was that I was having a hard time making the resists work with having 2 wands, and then also our boots, or excuse me, not our boots, I meant to say our belt, which is the Coward's Legacy. That's another one I didn't talk about in the previous video, but now we're using it, so I might as well bring it up here. And Coward's Legacy gives us vulnerability at 80% increased effect. And again, we're not getting anything from curses, so this works great because this makes us on low life, and we can also take Pain Attunement now, which is a great keystone, which gives us 30% more spell damage. So that's an amazing thing that we definitely want to be taking advantage of on this build, so I decided to go ahead and do it. I did know about this interaction before making the previous video, but I just didn't, invest that currency, and I wanted to keep the build kind of low budget. So if you do want like a more low budget version of the build, go watch the previous video. In fact, I'll go ahead and include it up in the, I don't know, whatever corner this is, and you guys go check it out if you really feel like you want to. And yeah, so we're using that Coward's Legacy, and we're also getting our ring slots back, because now we decided to go ahead and put in Etsuri's Reflection, and the rings that I decided to use were Shaper's Mark, and then just a very good rare Elder ring. And the Elder ring that I chose has crit multi, which is very important because we're scaling our crit now. And I've kind of found out that Freezing Pulse is kind of a crit skill. We also get to take advantage of Shaper Mark's increased spell damage when you have an Elder ring equipped. So that's a very good interaction there. And the other items which we decided to use were just a rare wand, and on this wand you're going to want to have damage to spells, cold damage to spells, increased spell damage whenever possible, crit multiplier, crit chance for spells. All these things are extremely useful, and if you have a wand with all of these things, that's going to boost your damage the most. The wand that I have, I'll go ahead and show the thing here. It was very good, and I think it cost me around 20 chaos to get one around like this. So, not too big of an investment for a wand that does boost our damage quite a bit. And now, let's talk about some of the other jewels that we have, actually. It's already talked about two, which were the first snows, but I also have a Watcher's Eye on here with a clarity buff that makes it so that our kind of like our mind over matter is better when we have clarity active, and we're pretty much going to have clarity all the time. That's one aura that I recommend that you constantly are pressing with the March of the Legion boots. The other jewels that we have are a self-flagellation. And, one thing that you could do, by the way, you technically could swap out the Watcher's Eye for just a rare jewel that has really good crit multi on it. In fact, I might even do that, but right now I just don't have the passives, and I am going to be switching into another video here pretty soon, so probably won't be for quite some time. And the last item that I'm going to be talking about is the cluster jewel that we decided to use, and we just need the cluster jewel that gives us the onslaught buff and the one that gives us I think it's like totem placement speed. Anyway, you'll see the tooltip here. Okay, so that's enough about items. Let's go ahead and get right into the changes that I've made to the passive tree. Okay, so here we are talking about the passive tree now, and you can see here that our passive tree is quite a bit different. We basically took all of this back off, and we only have these 3 nodes for skill effect duration now. This is my exact build from the game, and I think we are getting more damage. Let me go ahead and actually do some damage calculation here for you really quick. So let's go into skills, and we need to include all 6 of our totems in our damage here. Let's go ahead and click include full DPS. And let's put our flasks on. Now we are using a diamond flask now that we are crit. And let's go ahead and go to configuration. And we're pretty much always going to have onslaught. I don't think that increases our damage right now, but we also use endurance charges. We do use power charges, and put that down. We have 4 of these as minimum. Now we also have frenzy charges, but I'm not going to include that in the damage because we pretty much won't have those for bosses. You will have them for clearing though with cold snap. Okay, and then let's put on our, let's see. We actually are going to have quite a few curses on us all the time. So let's just go ahead and put a couple of these, because that is going to boost our damage with that flagellation. Now, I pretty much can get up to 9, but just for the purposes of this, I'm just going to include 7, right? Because you don't always get 9, so I'm going to include 7. I think that's a little better. A little more realistic, I should say. So, under boss, we're going to go ahead and just put Cyrus. That way the damage... And he is going to be chilled because we've got cold snap, we've got all kinds of stuff to make him chilled. So we can see our damage is at like 2 million now. And let's go back over here, make sure we have everything correct. Yeah, so this is about what our skill tree looks like at the moment. One more level, I'll probably put this in, and you can see that's increasing our damage a little bit there. And when I first switched over to this crit build, crit side of things, I had been trying to go for this, and just make sure that when you're doing your totems, and if you decide to invest heavily into critical strike chance, make sure you get these, because These nodes are very, very important, and I'll just go ahead and demonstrate that really quick. So if I take those out, you can see our DPS drops quite a bit, and then I think what I had here was I had that off of there, and I think I had these out as well. Anyway, I tried to go for these because these are actually pretty good, but you can see our damage isn't as high as if we had just, you take those out, and what do we have? Put these back, or no, let's take that one off. We put these back in. Those, again, they're just very, very important, and we put that back in. Yeah, much, much better. And then if we put this, which is our next skill point, yeah, our damage goes up even still. So this is just, it's a lot more damage than what we had before, and it was just too much of a point investment to try and go for all of this. It just doesn't work. So anyway, I still want to use March of the Legion boots because I think they're really strong. I just couldn't really invest that many points into this. Okay, so that's it for the passive tree. So before we get into our final thoughts of the build, I did want to go ahead and just briefly talk about the skills that we're using. So the only thing that I haven't really discussed yet, because again, we have discussed the 4 auras that we're using. We've discussed the fact that we're using Freezing Pulse Totems. But one really important skill that we need is Cold Snap. We need Frostbite for a curse, and we need to apply Exposure, which we're doing that with Frost Bomb. And so you could technically just go like a cast on crit for some of these, but it doesn't work that great for this because we have so many different auras that we're using. So it's kind of hard when you're limited on your slots from that. So what I decided to do is I put Cold Snap in a 4-link setup with Arcanist Brand and Frostbite, and it's also being supported by Bone Chill. So how that works is you place down your Cold Snap, which then gives you a chance to get Frenzy charges when you kill things, and yeah, so that generates our Frenzy charges pretty consistently. And then we're getting Frostbite, which is lowering the resistances of the enemies, and Bone Chill, which is doing like increased chill effect and a bunch of other things there. So we're getting quite a bit of damage from that, and you definitely want to make sure you're placing the Arcanist brand down every chance that you get before killing enemies, because you're going to get those Frenzy charges, which is going to increase your damage. The other thing that you're going to need is the Frost Bomb setup to apply Exposure, and we are getting Exposure, or we are putting our Frost Bomb in a 3-link setup with increased duration and Spell Cascade. So Spell Cascade kind of makes it throw down in this like line effect, and increased duration just increases the actual orb portion of the effect. And because Frost Bomb has this kind of a two-phase deal, it has a phase where it's applying the exposure and it's sitting there, and then it explodes. And we want to just stay in that phase for longer, where it's just applying that exposure onto as many enemies as possible, while our totems are just doing all the work. All right, now let's go ahead and just touch on some final thoughts before I end the video. And that pretty much wraps it up for the Freezing Pulse Totems, or at least everything I really wanted to say about it. I am going to be getting into some other builds now. I did like my time with Freezing Pulse Totems. And there's one other thing I wanted to talk about too, which is that somebody else had pointed out that there's another content creator that has done Freezing Pulse Totems before, and I think the name was like Warlock. And I mean, I'm sure there is. I don't really know, what everybody has done in the past, and I'm sure every skill in Path of Exile has been covered by, numerous people. So I hope you enjoyed my take on it. I hope it's not too close to anyone else's, and even if it is, maybe some of my own thoughts and experiences with the build might kind of help some other people try new things with it and take it forward. So anyway, thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. It means so much. And again, don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more content from me. And it does help a lot because like I said, just getting started out on here. I don't have a ton of time to always be making videos, but I plan to upload as frequently as I can. And so with that, adios. We will see you on the next video.